Phillip Morgan, welcome to Landlord Confidential.
Why, thank you.
So, for the audience, you're a dog father, you're a brother, you're a son, you're an uncle, you're a boat captain, you're a smoker of meats, a philosopher of property management, and you're Homeladder's maestro of maintenance.
Sounds good to me.
What did I miss?
Well, there's a lot that we do, in property management. And in a personal life, you have to kind of find a bridge between both to find your balance, and all these different hobbies and interests I have help create a balance, because property management by nature is not the prettiest business to be involved in. It can get kind of ugly. It has its dirty spots where, everybody has a bad day in property management from time to time. So you need to have your avenues to de-stress. So
yeah, definitely. As our maestro of maintenance, what do you offer as the best tips to landlords out there to save money on maintenance?
Really, a lot of this comes down to finding yourself with a property management partner that is local. You want somebody that is going to be using local vendors, because 9 times out of 10 they're going to be less expensive, they're going to be more prompt. And what happens if you have maintenance issues that don't get resolved in a timely manner? Tenants will start getting frustrated. They'll start creating more issues. You'll have a problem on the back end getting them to sign a lease renewal. If you're trying to get rent increases, they're going to balk at that. So finding people that are local, sourcing the right people, sourcing the right property management company, that's the base of everything. You have to be the right property management company. You really want to focus on being local, using local vendors, because you're going to help your local economy as well by using everybody that's local. If you have a home in a certain city, you want that city to prosper, your rents go up. We've seen that in Phoenix. I've been in the property management game in Phoenix since 2008, and homes that we were renting for $800 to $900 then are renting for $2,000, $2,200 now. And they're your normal rental homes in the valley, but that's how much rents have went up. So,
yeah. How do you find the best local vendors?
Well, a lot of it comes down to, you got to meet them in person. That's a great thing to do. You want to meet your vendors. You want to have them come to your office. You want to talk to them. You want to go meet them at the job site, go walk a job site with them. And you just got to do your legwork. You got to get boots on the ground. You have to, again, it's sourcing local, meaning, utilize your vacant properties. It's always great. I'll always want to meet an owner at a property. If the owner is local and in town, walk the property, meet a vendor with the owner there. Again, this is a real personal people business. You have to be able to, you really have to be able to kind of bridge that gap. And again, you have to really sync with, your local people.
Yeah. So when you do find that local vendor, how do you nurture that relationship to keep them happy, basically?
Well, you got to pay them on time. First off, you really want to make sure that, that they have an understanding of getting their invoices in, because we do have cycles where we pay our vendors. Some vendors have traditionally done the thing where they wait and they submit invoices once a month. We let our vendors know that they don't need to do that. They submit an invoice, they'll get paid within a week to 10 days, of us receiving that invoice. A lot of them appreciate that. And again, it takes them a while to realize that, because a lot of property management companies don't do that. A lot of property management companies will only pay once a month. That's not what Homeladder believes in. We believe in paying as frequently as we can. So we always trust them to get their invoices in. And again, plus it's just being able to communicate with the property manager and the person that's in charge of the property. We've been in situations before, both of us in the past, where there were too many layers of people to go through for vendors to get work orders done promptly. They have a vendor on site, they can't get hold of somebody to get an approval.
Yeah.
And they have to go through a call center or whatever, and nobody likes doing that for anything, especially when you have a vendor on the ground. And then it costs more money if they have to leave and come back. So it's a disservice to the owner that we work for of the property. So
yeah, and the tenants, right? They don't
Correct.
like having to reschedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one thing, being nice to vendors to keep them loyal to you and making your jobs a priority, right? But how do you also keep them fair on pricing?
By being a hands-on property manager, we double check all the invoices. So we are going to know in our market, we know what most repairs should cost.
Yep.
There's going to be enough detail in the invoice along with pictures, so we can figure out if this is in the ballpark or not. There will be some nuance with certain jobs, but we go through and we check these ourselves. This isn't just some pass-through. The property managers here, we actually check the invoices. We know what things are going to cost in our market. And again, that's the that's what is the benefit of having local people doing local work.
Yeah. So you're not scared to have a tough conversation with a vendor if they give you a high price for a simple item, right?
No, not at all, because again, that's the nature of working with contractors. They will eventually try to start sliding prices up. They will, if there's new people involved, they'll try to slide some things through from time to time. Because they have their accounting department that has to send their invoices to us. So there's a few hands that touch things, and that's where we end up just. Sometimes you have to have that hard conversation, but if you have a personal relationship with them, you get through it and you move on to the next job.
Yeah.
And they have to understand that not every job is a home run when you work for property management.
Yeah.
Vendors who work for property managers have to understand that it's a long game. The same way property management is a long game. Property management is not a get-rich-quick scheme.
Yeah.
If you get into property management yourself as a broker of a company, as a lifelong property manager, you just have to understand it's a long game. So,
yeah. Been a long game for you. Let's start at the beginning. How did you get started in property management?
I got my real estate license in 1996. A good friend of mine, Gene, that I was in a bowling league with forever. He was getting to be an older gentleman, and he was wanting to groom me basically to take over his company, not knowing that I was really wanting to get out of Alaska as well, because that's where I started in the business. And I had the goal to get out of Alaska eventually too, but I wanted to learn this trade to be able to move along. And my family was in real estate and construction, so property management, it was just a real natural fit. It was a no-brainer to go ahead and take the classes, get my real estate license, and move into property management. And I had that option to begin with as well. I could have went into sales, but it's not my style to have to sit there and hustle and completely, or just have a continual conversation with everybody to try to get sales, right?
Yeah.
And Alaska, honestly, is not a boom or bust market like Phoenix. It's a very steady market. Slow gains, property values increase and everything, but it was definitely much more of a traditional market to where my owners would hold their properties for 5 to 7 years. They would, get all the tax benefits from that, and then they would sell and buy new properties.
Okay.
Very traditional market.
Yeah.
So Gene and Diana taught me the business. I learned in a mom and pop's organization, which was great. And in hindsight, sometimes I think it might have been smart for me to stick around and, buy them out at that time and then run that business for a few years and then sell off and then move down to Arizona. And kind of going to that next level, why did I move to Arizona?
Yeah.
Was no big secret at all. I was born in Alaska, spent about 25 years there total. I moved back and forth a couple times, but honestly, I just wanted to live in the sunshine. No big secret. And Phoenix, if you're in real estate, everybody knows Phoenix is always going to be an interesting market. There's always going to be boom and bust cycles here. And in real estate, once you've been in it for a while, you understand there's always a way to make a living in real estate. You just have to be on top of it and pivot with the changes that come at you.
Yeah. So we met 13 years ago. Together, we bootstrapped a company from basically 0 doors to 3,900 doors. And then we eventually sold that to a venture-backed national firm. What was that experience like for you?
Well, it was an interesting experience, to say the least. We went through in that original setup when we started there. I was running a maintenance portfolio for Phoenix as well. I was handling the maintenance because I had experience running the maintenance division before in property management. So to do the company a favor and just to make it as easy as possible, I took a small portfolio of homes that I was actually managing as a property manager, and then I also took on we ended up hiring 2 maintenance techs in-house. So that was my job as well every day, was to schedule those guys and keep them busy to try to generate revenue for the company. Mm-hmm. So in hindsight, I can say that what we had done before to build the previous company together was definitely a lot closer to the right way to do the business. After being involved in a macro management style company where, nationwide, using nationwide vendors, I go back to doing things local. It really is the best way for an individual owner of a property to maximize, the potential of said property. Because again, you can keep maintenance in check. You can actually get eyes on the property.
Yeah.
We do things, locally. We have, any one of us can go to a property. We're all experienced property managers. All of us that work in our office, we can all go to a property. We're going to be able to give a realistic diagnosis of what's going on at a property. If you have something as simple as an HOA violation, we can get by there and check it out. So.
Yeah. I think we both experienced the same dilemma there, where we thought that a nationwide firm would give us the scale and the opportunity to provide better service to both tenants and owners. And I think it took us a couple years, but we realized like it's basics. It's the basics of property management, right? Tenants, toilets, and termites. Like that's primarily what we're dealing with. That's
Sure.
our responsibilities. So tell me your philosophy on that. Like, how are you getting back to basics now at Home Ladder?
What we do here again is being personal. It comes down to being personal and local. So I've reached out to all of my tenants that have came on board with me over here to let them know I'm their property manager. They know they're going to reach out to me directly. They're not going through a call center. They're not talking to somebody in a different town, different city, different country, different state. They're talking to somebody local, so they know that they're going to be able to get a result a little bit faster. We also, again, it's getting back to, I've been able to get a lot of my vendors back that had got frustrated working in that environment for the last several years, where they couldn't get a hold of somebody, like I was previously mentioning, where, so they're ecstatic that, myself and you and Brandon were here at Home Ladder now, and we've been able to recreate these relationships and get a lot of people back in the fold, and they understand that, the relationship is going to be a lot stronger going forward. So it really does come down to being able to get to the properties, meet the owners, meet the vendors, meet the tenants. We'll always do a walkthrough of the tenant when we move a tenant in, because we want to show them how to use the home properly. We want to show them the systems. We want to show them what's an emergency, what's not an emergency, how to turn the water off to a house. A lot of people that rent a home have never rented a home before. They haven't had the responsibility of knowing to change your air filter every month in the state of Arizona. You don't necessarily do that in the Midwest or wherever else you're from. So we take that opportunity. Sometimes it's 30 minutes. It might be an hour at a house. It just depends what the situation calls for. If I'm meeting somebody my mom and dad's age at the property that's lived in homes their whole life, I'm not going to spend a ton of time with them. But you just have to be aware of who you're talking to. You obviously young people that haven't, some of them haven't even rented a Ford, let alone, a home. So I have to tell them to, you're expected to have some tools at the house. We don't have a guy in a golf cart to run out here and change light bulbs for you, type of thing. So
Right. Definitely. You're so experienced in property management. What are the trends you're seeing right now in the industry?
With locally, we'll start local in Phoenix right now. Phoenix is always a very active community in property management. We've both realized that since we've been here. There's so many property management companies in Phoenix. Everybody's trying to do what they can to gain properties, and rents are going down a little bit right now. They're stabilizing. We're not having these 10, 15, 20% jumps year over year that we had in rents. So a lot of them are stabilizing. Certain price ranges, to me, it looks like the price ranges that are on the higher end of the rental market, 3,000 and above. Some of those numbers are starting to come down just a little bit or stabilize. We're not seeing a lot of rent increases right now. We're just seeing very marginal increases. We're not doing, again, the 10 to 20% rent jumps that we were doing. Properties can sit on the market just a little bit longer right now. Some people are still kind of waiting in the wings to move. They're waiting to see what interest rates are going to do. There's a lot of qualified people out there that wanted to buy, which works well for us because they can afford the rental homes. They can afford the rent increases that have happened in our market over the last 10 years. They're qualified individuals. So, our market's still moving. It's always going to be interesting here in Phoenix.
Yeah. I know you're a personal investor in short-term rentals. So what are you seeing in terms of the Phoenix short-term rental market?
There seems to be some, flooding in that market. I do know a couple of people who specialize in short-term rentals, and they're saying the same thing. There's a lot of, there's a few of the large investment companies that came in and scooped up, hundreds of homes in the valley, flooded certain markets. Scottsdale, for example, has, a huge excess of short-term rentals right now. So we're hoping to gain some of those. We're hoping some of those will decide to go long-term, come over to us. That's why I've been, keeping these relationships with my short-term people, because obviously we have owners that will want to go short-term, and we want to have a good partnership to send these people over to as well. So,
yeah, definitely. What do you think are best practices for short-term rentals? What do you do to prepare your rental for your next guest?
Well, basically what I like to do is we just supply everything we can possibly think of under the sun. We like to make sure that there's not going to be anything that they're missing when they get to the house. So our local home that we use here in Mesa, Arizona, when we leave this home, I have, every kitchen appliance under the sun. We do cooking and catering, and we have a couple side hustles around cooking and barbecue and whatnot. So we have a ton of kitchen appliances. We just leave them out because we know we know we're going to make enough money to where if we've got to replace them, we've got to replace something. I got grills and smokers out back, and all these things are fully functional. Directions for everything, as many utensils as you can imagine. I mean, I even have my old, vintage stereo equipment out, and I leave my records out because I'm not going to go pack all this stuff away. And if somebody wants to enjoy, some old vinyl, hey, go for it. And then our property in Lake of the Ozarks, it's the same. We supply plenty of toys for the lake. We're on the lake there, so we have all the toys you can imagine. The same. We have 4 different ways you can cook outside. Smokers, griddles, and regular gas grills. Fire pit with cooking accessories. So we like to provide everything we possibly can on that.
Make it feel like a home, right?
Yeah, we don't want you to have to decide you got to go run up to the corner to go look for something that you would expect to have. So.
Yeah. We as property managers, we all have stories because we're out there in the field in people's homes seeing things that other people wouldn't believe. So what's your craziest property management story?
There are many. One that always stands out, which I love to tell because this was up in Alaska, again, probably my 3rd or 4th year in property management. And we managed this trailer park, and there was plenty of stories that came with that. But this was, I had an eviction in the trailer park, which this guy had been evicted 3 or 4 times, always kind of made it at the very last minute. He got the rent paid, and he was a pain. He was a problem tenant, which we all come across from time to time.
Yeah.
And so it finally went through court. We got what's called the writ of assistance. That's where, they did not vacate per the order from the judge. So then we have to go through and get the sheriffs or deputies, whichever local environment you're in. You have to get the police to show up.
Yeah.
So they show up in a white non-discreet van. There's 6, deputies mobbed in the back of this van. And they meet me at the corner. I follow them in. I point out where they're at. So I'm parked behind the car, and these 6 guys get out. And they're just approaching like they always would. The guy in there, no shirt on, of course, opens the door, and here comes a pit bull running at these cops. He runs down the stairs. This pit bull jumps. This cop punches this pit bull right in the face, knocks him out of the air. It was the craziest thing I'd ever seen. And pit bull's, oh my God, just kind of freaked out, but they're able to get hands on it and muzzled him and put him in the van. And then, of course, the guy came flying out afterwards, and I think he took a couple extra shots to the rib cage from the cops. But, it was such a crazy thing to watch. And this was before, I'm dating myself again, but this was before we all had cell phones with cameras on them. And so there was no video of that, which is a bummer because that would have been an amazing video to have. It would still be getting views on the internet right now. Yeah. It's that amazing.
You definitely would have gone viral.
Yeah.
So I've personally always admired the relationships the relationships you have with tenants. You have a great management philosophy. I feel like you're fair, but you're also firm. Like, would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. And it's by design because, again, doing this for as long as I have, I don't want to keep going back. I've been doing this forever, but I do believe there are certain things that there are certain wisdoms you gain from just time on this planet. You have to have people skilled to a certain point to do this business. You have to understand people. Empathy is part of it, but the firmness has to start from the beginning. That is, again, why we started this way back, a decade or more ago, going out to the property and meeting the tenants, because you just have to set the guidelines. You have to set the rules. And again, a lot of it is, part of it is helping with the technology because, yes, now we do have technology. Tenants have portals, owners have portals, vendors have portals. We need to be able to take that one-on-one time to let them know how to use these things. If they can pull it up on a laptop or their phone while we're there, we can help them with that. We can, again, we show them how to use everything, and we just tell them how the relationship is going to work. And again, you have to tell them how it's going to work because we are the person in control of the situation. We have a customer relationship with the tenant. The owner of the property is our client. So we have 2 different sets of rules on how we have to manage these. Yeah. We have a fiduciary responsibility to the owner of the property, and we have federal and state guidelines that tell us and dictate how we have to handle the tenant situations. And it's our interpretation of those laws as a company of how we present that to the tenant. So again, you just got to keep it fair. And what I like to tell tenants is, hey, if you make me work, I make you pay. Meaning do what you're supposed to do. Yeah. Don't let your yard get out of control. Don't start getting HOA violations because that creates phone calls for me and emails with the cranky owner on the back end. Yeah. So again, if you start doing these things, you're going to get, when I say you make us work, I make you pay, means you're going to get paid. You're going to pay certified letter fines because we're going to mail you out fines, and then they're going to get attached to your ledger. If there's a fine from the HOA, it's attached to your ledger. So they're just things that they have to understand, and it doesn't matter how many times you tell a lot of tenants, they're not going to get it right away. until you get in their pocket. So,
yeah. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes self-managers make, right, is that relationship that they have with the tenant. They don't keep that line between that relationship. It turns more into a personal relationship rather than a business transaction, which is what it is, right? So what would your advice be to self-managers out there? Should they be self-managing? Should they hire a property manager? When should they hire a property manager?
Well, that's a tricky thing with property management is because I'm going to always recommend that you don't do that, right? Because tenants will take advantage of owners 99% of the time, right? They're going to play on the personality of that owner. I mean, tenants are good at manipulating situations when they need to, right? Everybody knows this once you've been in property management for a minute. What owners they'll play on emotions and they'll want to believe the stories, and it's human nature to want to believe tenant stories. And that was one of the hardest things it took me to get used to as well. My first year in the business, it's like we handled. At the mom and pop's company I worked for, we handled a lot of lower end properties. So I was dealing with a lot of these situations, a lot of people behind on rent all the time, kind of constantly. So you wanted to, again, be sympathetic to the situation. And it takes a while to get your head flipped to get into that headspace to where you have to really realize you got to be firm, and you just have to tell people no. And that's the hardest thing of being a property manager is telling people no. You have to tell owners no sometimes as well because owners want us to do things that are illegal. They don't know it, but that's our job as a property manager.
Yeah.
Because everybody thinks they can do property management. Because it's the basics. Yeah, we fix stuff once in a while. We collect the rent, we deposit checks. There's way more nuance to it than that.
Yeah.
So,
definitely agree. So, if there's a self-manager out there listening right now and they just got scared to death, and they're thinking, I should hire a property manager, what questions should they ask potential property managers as they start the interview process?
Sure. So everybody wants to know the monthly rate. And that's where a lot of property management companies, they'll throw out a super low monthly rate. But you have to understand as a property owner and an investor, I mean, they're a company. They're out there to make money. We're not nonprofit companies. We're allowed to make money. We're licensed by the state. We're regulated. But we are all licensed professionals. So we are allowed to make a living doing this for a business. So there are ways that they'll try to sneak other fees in there. And there's a certain company out there that I'm aware of here in the Valley that you cannot go to their website and see their fee structure. To me, that's a huge red flag. You should be able to go to any one of our websites, full disclosure, see what our rates are going to be, right? And so you want to ask the questions. You want to know who you're talking to as well. You want to know if you're actually talking to somebody local. Are you talking to a sales team member that's just went through some kind of corporate training minutia to come up with, a set of questions to ask? Or are you talking to somebody who's going to be on the ground? Are you talking to somebody even in the same town? You really want to make sure. Again, I keep going back to this local thing because after the last 5 years in this macro management environment where you never knew where anybody was at, not even, a lot of them aren't even in the country.
Yeah.
You really want to know if you have somebody that you can talk to, that you can get on the horn, that can go meet you at the property. So you want to meet them at the property. If you're local and you can meet somebody at the property, you 100% want to meet them at the property. Because one, you're going to establish that relationship. And we always take the time. That's a big thing with home ladders. We always want to take the time to meet an owner anytime they're in town. It doesn't matter if it's a weekend. Take an hour or two, meet them for coffee. If the house is occupied, meet them for coffee or lunch. If the home is vacant, go walk the property because it's going to save so many questions down the road. It's going to make your life easier as a property manager. It'll also make your life easier as the property owner too because you'll have a point of contact.
What are some of the ways that property managers try and obfuscate their fees, hide their fees, basically?
Again, a lot of it does come down to maintenance. When you use a larger scale company, they're using large national vendors. Obviously, they're going to be charging more for maintenance in that. So a lot of these companies have their own, a lot of the property management companies have their own maintenance teams, their own maintenance divisions. What's that mean? That means that they have a bunch of vehicles they have to pay for. They have a bunch of salaries for staff members they have to pay for. And it's not just salaries, it's insurance, it's benefits, everything that comes along with having that kind of staff to back that up. You need to, they need to pay for that one way or another. And, our system is a lot more simple. It's a lot more, we have a lot of local trusted vendors. It's a lot more streamlined and, things get done way quicker. So you're using a lot more skilled people as well because the people that we use, they run their own companies. They're worried about, they're worried about their reputations. If they see a problem, if we see a problem on a work order or something that didn't get fixed right, they want to get back there and get it taken care of because they want to continue to get our work. Yeah. So they've spent years, developing these relationships with us, and they don't want to lose them. So we get things done. And a lot of the time, the owners will never even hear about any of this stuff because, I mean, mistakes get made. It's not, nothing's perfect. Nobody's perfect. But if we call them back, they get it taken care of. So,
yeah. If there's potential landlords out there that want to get in touch with you and ask questions or interview you possibly as
Sure.
their next property manager, how would they get a hold of you?
they can reach out to us, through the website. They can call me directly on my cell phone. My cell phone is out there. And that's how I prefer to just, reach out. Give me a call.
What's that number?
602-427-7300.
Perfect. Phil, thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure working with you, and I'm looking forward to our future together.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's been a great 13 years.